So ladies, gentlemen, welcome back to a brand new recap, review, and breakdown for The Penguin episode 5. And as we all heard from various reviews that were coming out for the entire 8 episodes, that the series supposedly gets even better after episode 4 in the back half. And a lot of us were going, well, this is already really good. Can it get any better? Well, damn, how about that? Now, as usual, there is so much to discuss with this episode, even Oz getting his very own penguin cave, if you will. So if you go on to enjoy the video, go ahead and leave a like on it. It really does help support the video in the frickin' YouTube algorithm, and of course, consider subscribing for more penguin breakdowns just like this. So after the flashbacks of episode 4, episode 5 picks up in the aftermath of Vic saving Oz, and we see Oz setting fire to his Maserati, which I actually didn't see coming, funnily enough. I thought maybe he would try and repair it again, but Oz then asks Vic if he's ever been told about Rex Calabrese, and we hear once again how much of an influence he had on Oz's life. He talks about how he had this gold Cadillac with white leather seats, and when it rolled down your street, it felt like your block was blessed.
Made a kid with a bum leg feel like even he could be king.
Now, of course, I am now wondering what Oz's next car will be, because you just know there's going to be a major upgrade when he's the new kingpin of Gotham. Now, Vic apologizes for leaving Oz, but he says that 100 Maseratis couldn't replace how Vic came back and put his ass on the line for him. Then we have Oz's guys turn up, and he offers to cut them in on the new drug business, but he reveals that the Maronis took it off of his plate. And so the next phase of Oz's plan unfolds in this moment as he points out that the Maronis have quite the weakness. And yeah, in this moment, Oz opens up bloody TikTok, of all things, within the Batverse. It makes you think how many possible TikTok sightings there've been of Batman on the streets, and he shows his guys Taj Maroni, the heir to Sal's throne, and he was boasting in his very own TikTok about how the Maronis are going to take back what was taken from them. And so in this moment, ladies and gentlemen, what a beginning to this episode. We cut to Taj getting his tattoo, he's blasting music in his headphones, and Oz marches in there like no hesitations and starts shooting people down and taking Taj hostage, counting on the fact that his parents will not be happy about that whatsoever. Now, I think this really goes to show how crazy the last few episodes are just going to be, because this was just so brilliantly gangster with the way that they just rolled in. Like, instantly in episode 5 here, just feels like we've changed gears with the gang war, and every second that goes by from here on out, we're gaining more and more speed to the chaos that is about to unfold. Next, we see Oz literally having the balls to go to Blackgate and present Sal and Nadia with a Polaroid of their son with today's paper as proof of life, and Oz says that he wants what Nadia stole from him. Nadia says that their son isn't a pawn and that there's a code, even when it comes to this gang war stuff, but Oz has all of the cards in this moment, really, and clearly doesn't particularly care about the code that Nadia speaks of, just showing how, you know, willing Oz is to just change up the game at any costs to get what he wants. Now, what I'm really enjoying seeing in this episode in particular is this fully fledged Oz risking it all at this point. Like, he's no longer playing both sides like a weasel to then surprise them. There isn't a facade anymore. It's just like all out in the open now, and it really gives us more of a dog-eat-dog dynamic in the show. So there's a lot more gravity now, I would say, and gangster energy coming from Oz in these moments. Both Sal and Nadia talk about being ready for Penguin to betray them and to not honor the exchange of Taj and Bliss later on, but obviously Oz definitely expected that. And speaking of, it didn't really take Oz very long to do the very thing they were expecting of him. So on the way out of Blackgate, Oz hands some cash to a Blackgate guard, and Yeah, more about that a little bit later on. And as Oz is leaving Blackgate, he notices the Gotham News report on the gas leak at the Falcone estate, leaving Sophia as one of the only survivors alongside that of Johnny Vitti and, of course, Carla's daughter, Gia. And Oz knows exactly what she got up to, but if anything, he feels like she's done him a favor because, of course, now he doesn't have to deal with Luca Falcone, Milos, and everyone else. And this is when we're back with Sophia as she watches Carla's daughter get into a van that's heading to a children's home, which, of course, is just very, very sad, as even though she's the cause of this, she probably sees herself in Gia, in how she lost her mother, in really a similar glance to how Bruce was seeing himself in the mayor's son after he lost his father. But this is when none other than Police Chief Mackenzie Bock turns up. Now, you guys may remember him from the Batman movie. He literally squared right up to Batman at the GCPD. We saw him at the mayor's funeral. So it was great seeing him pop up again here. Now, Sophia explains away the situation, saying that she took Gia to the greenhouse because Vitti and Carla were having an argument, and smartly detailed that it was about Vitti sleeping with Luca's wife. And now that Vitti is missing, of course, it kind of makes him look like a suspect since he is still alive and out there somewhere. But at the same time, to Bock, it does kind of make you wonder if he's just thinking, so, she just got out of Arkham after 10 years, and now there's a potential family side, I believe it's called. I mean, he even says,
awfully suspicious, don't you think? Prominent crime family in Gotham like that by a gas leak.
Now, Sophia gets a little bit agitated here, even asking if it's common for the chief of police to respond to house calls. And with what Bock says next, I actually really like this little tidbit to the larger story that I think it's alluding to playing out in Gotham as we get closer to the Batman 2. He responds that there's a new era in Gotham. The mayor-elect's got a mandate to put an end to the scum of this city. Just like Batman, of course. So yeah, he did kind of want to see this for himself, but with that comment, it really makes me hope to see a scene of the Batman working with the mayor-elect Bella Real, as reluctant as she may be at first working with a vigilante. I just think it'd be really cool after getting the scene of Bella Real in the Batman saying to Bruce,
you really could be doing more for this city.
If there was a scene with the Bat vigilante dropping in on her office and she slowly warms up to the idea of working with him, just like Jim Gordon once did, that would just be so cool. Now, next we see Sophia go to the Falcone crypt where she has Johnny Vitti chained up. I love this eerie location and just the way it was shot, because everything at this point in Sophia's journey and the way that she's acting after episode 4, especially by the end of episode 4, is just really screaming full-on Gotham villain. To just see her so naturally painted in this world, in this villainous way, I think that's, if I do say so myself, quite a compliment to give for her to attain that, and for this show to even craft a character like Sophia Falcone from the comic books in their own innovative ways. Sophia reveals that she wants untraceable cash, knowing that Carmine would have kept it close, but Sophia is also fine with Vitti taking some time to think about that, even pouring freezing cold water over him, allowing him to kind of crack under that pressure with getting freezing over time, which just makes me wonder, by the way, if she's even experienced something like that at Arkham, because we can't forget how we only really got a peek into the first 6 months of her journey there. There was still a full 9+ years of Arkham that she endured, so I wouldn't be surprised. And Sophia is just kicking back, enjoying hearing him shiver. Kristen Milioti just plays such a good villain, and I know everyone you probably watch like me or everywhere is just saying this same thing, but it's so true. Each and every episode, I thought my expectations were already exceeded at the very peak of what they could be, but it just keeps getting better. And I'm really not trying to get lost in the source of hype here, but you're overtaken by it, let alone the scenes that we get towards the end of this episode. I just feel like such a kid in a candy store with this new evolved version of her that we're seeing. This is where Viti actually reveals some things about Sophia's mother in an effort to kind of keep himself around, I guess you could say. Viti goes on to show remorse, saying that he even introduced her to Carmine, but Sophia isn't really buying the act. And even though I do admit I think there could be a bit of remorse here, like for all he knows, he might be dying and, you know, he might be thinking about things. As she says, though,
but she kept on working for him. He loved her so much, he were his underboss for years.
And notice the way that she holds Viti up with the strap around his neck, tightening it more and more. It's like the show has done a deconstruction of the hangman. We already know they've done it a bit differently, but it's like she's being the hangman in reverse, playing into the moniker that everyone had already believed her to be. And so Viti reveals his plea for life, saying that she needs more than money, and that is actually respect. Soldiers to fight for her if she wants to win this war. Now back with Oz, he's actually brought Maroni's son to Eve Carlo's apartment, and as a result, she's having quite a go at him, as she's understandably very nervous about her involvement here, as it does look like Oz has too many plates spinning, or spilling, as she said. I also find it interesting here that Oz is blatantly underestimating Sophia through saying such a comment like, one family down, one to go, or at the start of the episode even saying to Vic that, you know, Sophia is a thorn without a prick. She won't matter. It comes across like he's doing the very same thing that people have done to him. Underestimation. And even though Oz will obviously end up as Kingpin, that's, you know, blatantly where things are gonna go, I suspect him attaining Kingpin status, but as well as that, the underestimation of Sophia will come at a very heavy cost. And it's going to be such a mistake because Sophia could wreak such damage to Oz, of which there are plenty of theories going around with that, and I'll get into a couple a little bit later on, and you may already know them yourself. Now, Oz wants Vic to go to his mother's, and Vic feels a little bit excluded, especially since he's fully signed on now, thinking that maybe he would be with Oz and the guys in the fight, feeling ready, but Oz doesn't really trust anyone else. So Vic goes to see Frances, and I love the shot of the movie she left playing on the TV, which was the 1980 movie titled Gloria, which is a story about a gangster's former ex-girlfriend who protects an orphan who the mob wants dead. And you can for sure imagine Frances was a bit like this back in the day, even present day, especially given how Oz lets her in on everything going on. Now, when Vic goes throughout the house, you can see that the dementia that Frances is dealing with is progressing more and more and more. She even has sticky notes all around the house reminding her of, you know, what's in various drawers in the kitchen. She eventually comes to realizing who Vic is, and I love this. She asks,
"Oh, nice boy. Oswald doing it's more important than me."
Now, Vic fills her in this moment and pretends that Oz actually killed all of the Falcons himself. And even though she doubts it at first, when she's convinced, she's so excited because her son, in her eyes, is finally pulling off the big moves that will advance him from, you know, unfortunately being a nothing in her eyes into the new Kingpin of Gotham, right? Which is when, ladies and gentlemen, we cut to Blackgate and we see Sal in his cell getting stabbed by one of Oz's men. I believe it was Mikey in one of the guard suits, and it's just like, wait, what? Wait, what? I mean, my mouth dropped and I was just like, wait, surely that's not Salvatore Maroni's time over already. And I was thinking, well, we didn't see a body. Now, right after, oh my god, speaking of crazy, Oz meets with Nadia and her one guard to exchange Taj for the Bliss shrooms. Now, Oz pulls them out, but doesn't want to hand him over until, they see the product, and Taj is soaking wet. Now, I don't know if any of you put this together, but as soon as I saw him dripping wet in this moment, I was like, that's not water. But are they really gonna do what I think they're gonna do? So Taj goes over to Nadia, and she sets him up with more of her men swarming in, firing from above. That was fairly predictable with how much she freaking hates Oz. But I have to say, throughout this whole scene, I love the score of this show. And I love how they do this kind of extended pull of the Penguin's main theme playing throughout this gunfire. It's just so good the way they repurpose that in moments like this. And Michael Giacchino's son, Mick Giacchino, just in case you didn't know already, did the score for this. So you definitely know where he got this from, and he's doing a stellar job. But ladies and gentlemen, then we get the moment. Oz lights his Zippo and sets both Taj and Nadia Maroney on fire. My God. This moment, Oz he looks at them as they both burn to a crisp, and I was just like, holy crap. Like, obviously, I mean, we all knew, like, something like this was gonna happen in the series. Like, clearly they weren't all gonna get along like happy families, but oh man, you can just tell when he's looking at them that this isn't just him simply killing them, he's taking it in. And after being a driver to then, just a man working for Carmine, to then even where he was at the beginning of this series, working for the rest of the family, he's finally feeling a tangible sense of power that he's now stepping into. A sense of that power because he really is pulling it off. Basically, in his eyes, all of the Falcones more or less are dead. The Maronis are now more or less gone. It's within Oz's grasp. And I just felt like the way this scene was shot with the firelight reflected in his face, it's just so villain, iconic. It's nasty, but it's the Penguin. It's what you want out of this show, this character from the comics brought to fruition in Matt Reeves' universe in just such a way that is just, it leaves me speechless. I can't even really describe it. In this moment, we then see them race out with the shrooms as they could be getting damaged by those automatic fire extinguishers, and we get a great shot of Gotham in this moment. Now, the reason why I bring that up is because one thing this scene made me think of is that perhaps because this is once again another night sky shot of Gotham with the city in the background, I just don't see why they can't even put a bat signal in the sky. Even if we know we're not getting Batman himself. It doesn't mean like crazy things. It's just a simple reference like that in of itself would show how Batman is busy doing something during events like this. That would perhaps make people question less, where is Batman during this? Why isn't Batman here? Shouldn't he, at least have one encounter during the gang war? I just think it would only help the show. But then again, this could still happen in the last 3 remaining episodes. But I'm surprised that they haven't decorated it, with a little Easter eggy reference here and there. It's cool. He exists in this world. And it's no different to really seeing a Riddler insignia spray painted over something somewhere. The thing is, though, after this bad news, Oz's promise of the Bliss operation to his men crumbles in his hands, as most of them were compromised, leaving all but 2 buckets intact, which is when Oz gets a call, and it's from Salvatore Maroni. Again, my mouth dropped in this moment.
Mikey's dead, you little bitch.
He says, thanks for the keys, Oz. Could never have busted out without them. There's no place I can't find you now. You're cooked, which is a very poor choice of words because Oz takes the opportunity in that moment to rub in the death of Sal's wife and son in his face, saying, cooked her? Well, yeah, funny choice of words. So, first, let me say that this is awesome, but I'm sorry, you're all seeing Blackgate's location on screen, right? How the hell did Sal bust out? Like, I know they maybe didn't have the screen time for this because the episodes are like 54, 55 minutes in of itself, and perhaps it would have screwed with the pacing and the editing of the episode, and furthermore, it could have ruined it would have ruined the surprise phone call in this scene. But the thing is, my critical brain here, through skipping over that is just such a big leap to digest because, you know, if you think about this, so he managed to take that guard's keys, well, my keys, managed to get through the whole prison system's various hallways and out the door, and then maybe used a key on that set of keys to get on a boat to make it to land. Look, I know about nitpicks, and I know I always want to acknowledge that there's some people who just don't care about that and, you know, aren't so, you know, critical when watching stuff like this, especially when the show is so good in practically every area. But, you know, this is still a review, and from a critical standpoint, Sal managing to make it out of Blackgate over to, like, the mainland Gotham City is pretty damn kind of contrived for the plot in the sense of how it was just glossed over. And I just don't think Sal, with all of this in mind, would have been able to bribe anyone who may have caught him along the way to just let him off, as he could have just done that, you know, in the years prior. I mean, I guess you could argue he wanted to serve his time and get out that way, but now, you know, if things have got to such a point and where, you know, he really wants to go after Oz. So all in all there, guys, just wasn't a fan in how the show completely glossed over his escape in terms of the writing, but I am most certainly, at the end of the day, a fan of Salvatore Maroni being back out on the streets of Gotham. At this point, Oz is starting to unravel. He checks up on his mum as he's pretty worried given the amount of heat on him, and even wants her out of there because it's just too risky. But as this plan was requested of Vic, I really didn't like the sound of it. And what I mean by that is how I'm sure you've heard all of these theories out there of Vic dying or Vic even being killed by Oz himself, just given how Colin Farrell has teased out there in public saying that you'll view Oz as a monster or like hate him by the end of episode 8. And it's like, you know, at first with that theory, I was kind of thinking, you know, what could Vic possibly do to get that treatment from Oz? And don't get me wrong, I know, you know, Oz manipulates Vic a little bit, but I do truly believe he likes him and is fond of him. But what I will say is, yeah, if he let him down in that way, you know, with Oz's mother Frances dying in Vic's care, perhaps that would do it. But I don't think this is what's gonna be the thing that could potentially put Vic in this danger, because the other thing to mention is, what if those theories are off and rather it's Sophia who takes Vic away from Oz? At this point, I really don't know, because maybe Colin Farrell was just on about, you know, what maybe Oz does to Sophia by the finale, since we all know he's going to end out on top, could be just so disgustingly bad. And even though they're both villains, you still might feel a bit bad for Sophia and look at Penguin like, oh my god. I don't know. I'm itching and absolutely itching to find out. But back with Sophia, ladies and gentlemen, we have Julian Rush visit her, saying that the police came to him asking about her, which makes sense because after all, he treated her at Arkham. But he says that she was right about him in reference to what she said at the end of last episode. And it's not actually the control in Arkham that he misses, but rather seeing her do what she did to her family and what it's given her and what he's observed, this release, as he puts it. He would like to feel that too, with her. He would like to be a part of what's next if she'll have him. Now, I have some mixed feelings on this, but I'm reserving judgment just because we've got more episodes left of Theo Rossi in it, obviously. And I'm a big fan of Theo Rossi, but initially here, I'm kind of feeling like I can't help but feel like there needs to be a bit more Julian just because right now it seems like, sure, you know, he feels bad about what happened in Arkham, and he's bonded with her in a way, maybe in more of just a one-way connection, if you will, because I'm pretty sure in this moment, Sophia doesn't particularly care if he comes or goes, and is now kind of, for lack of a better term, simping for her. So sure, there is something more interesting there to the character that the show is teasing, in how he wants to mimic the feeling that she's now got out of what she's done. But there's also a lack of why with Julian compared to Sophia, obviously. Now, I know this show isn't really about him, but, you know, I'm still feeling this way about the character, so I'm hoping we get more into that in these future episodes, because for now it's kind of like, oh, you're tagging along. Okay, you know, I hope there's more to that darker side to you kind of thing, so let's wait and see. But that song that was playing to Sophia just marching into the room with all of the men that Viti had gathered waiting for her, it was just awesome. It was a really nice touch with her wearing her mother's coat, and guys, I'm gonna say it again, my god, this next scene. She walks in there like she owns the place. As I said, Sophia's gone through this total meta-frickin-morphosis, so she has the confidence of someone who's like, okay, I'm willing to die at any moment kind of thing, so I fear nothing.
From this point on, I am a gigante.
Now that line there is a very nice touch on the comics, as, you know, she is, like, in her full name as the Hangman in Dark Victory, Sophia Falcone Gigante. Now, Sophia goes on to pitch a new way of running things, even calls all of the men there pawns, overlooked, expendable, saying that this is a new family now, a family that will not treat you like the cannon fodder in a fruitless war against the Maronis, a war in which she intends to end. Now, saying all of this, Viti's like, you know, what are you doing? What are you playing at? And I get where he's coming from, as, you know, if this is, as this is traditionally the way things are handled, the men might want to settle a score with the Maronis rather than going about the approach that she's saying here. And so due to this, and really likely looking for a good moment and excuse anyway, she headshots Johnny Viti. And that moment kind of felt like a Fallout. To anyone who plays the Fallout games, like, everybody felt that or liked that. I don't know, I feel like people were feeling different things. Maybe some people felt respect, some people were, like, intimidated by her, and they all start digging into the money gruesomely here, even over Viti's body. And notice how Julian is just kind of watching on in simp mode. So, like, this is what I mean. I'm interested. Like, what is his purpose from here on out? Like, is he gonna sacrifice himself for her? Is he going to go on to maybe be a bigger character in the Batverse, like some of us were thinking, and what I heard about a long time ago, but maybe plans changed? I don't know. You know what I'm going to say now, guys. Kristen Milioti. I live to serve. No, but really, I'm calling Thea Rossi a simp here, but no. My god, her performance was incredible. Like, this speech tops the last episode's speech at what I call the Last Supper. And not only that, guys, like, I think what I was getting into earlier, what I loved most about this is that the scene truly made her feel like a real Batman villain in Gotham. That's what is so good about this. She felt so convincingly like she fits in this world, and so formidably at that as well. And if anything, it kind of makes me feel like Oz stands no chance. But that's the brilliance. Like, both of these two leading roles, they're as good as each other in my mind. But I do feel like Kristen Miliotti's Sophia is stealing the thunder, dare I say it. And a little bit later on, just kind of connecting these scenes while we're talking about it, we're then back with Sal, who is feeling crushed after the death of Nadia. Clearly, he's injured from the knife wound, but I guess it didn't puncture any vital organs. And we hear Sophia's gunshots outside, and Sophia Gigante herself walks in. Now, Sophia talks about how Carmine thought that Salvatore Maroni was too sentimental, and even thought that it made him weak. he never quite understood why Sal cared so much about his family. But as we know with Sophia's approach, she even admits to him that Salvatore's family actually had things right back in the day. She talks in this moment about the next stage for their plan, really, and how they're both suffering at the hands of Oz, and she isn't here to kill Sal because that's exactly what he wants, for them to cancel each other out, and it's time to end the war between both of their families and forge a new alliance, joining both the Maronis and the Gigantes together. As a show of strength, they kill Oz, and then they get to take over the city together. And the look in Sal's face in this moment, like, by God, is he ready for it? But back with Vic and Francis, they're in Crown Point. It's most certainly a place no one would think to look. And as Vic leaves the car, well, none other than bloody Squid pops up again, looting the place. He's a part of the lawlessness and looting, I guess, as Batman said. And I love how she's just holding a bloody lamp, like so near and dear to her. Now, as Vic is letting Francis in the building, we see that Squid notices him. So this is likely going to be something revisited in the next episode or the one after that. Kind of, I think, making it a bit of a trial or like baptism moment for Vic in this criminal world, in where I can imagine he faces him, maybe even kills him. Now, as for the very end of the episode, ladies and gentlemen, oh man, Oz empties like the jar from his childhood and he finds a coin for a trolley, and he opens up the old abandoned trolley station, I guess you'd call it. And my God, I absolutely adore what they've done with the parallels between Batman and Oz here. This is something I really didn't expect. So inside it, it's literally like what Bruce has. We know Bruce utilizes an old abandoned subway terminal, Wayne Terminus, for the Batcave. And here you just know, and I wouldn't be surprised if Matt Reeves talks about it in an interview or two, that he wanted to find another grounded way of implementing something like this for Oz as well. Something forgotten about and abandoned in the city, in where he can really carry out his enterprise when he's Kingpin. Now, that's me assuming quite a bit that this place, you know, for all I know, it could get damaged or whatever, and he might not, but I'd like to think that when he's Kingpin, considering what he says next and how he and his brothers used to run down here and the tunnels go everywhere, giving them access to the whole damn city, like, that's such a good opportunity for him to continue on his Bliss operation, because as he says in a minute to Vic, like, it's humid down here, it's dark, it's perfect for growing more shrooms, and they've got 2 buckets left. And even in the New York Comic Con mid-season trailer that, you know, I guess you guys would have already seen by now, but you get to see this operation growing a bit more. So just imagine Oz now on top, having this whole underground network of a flourishing drug trade connected to everywhere in the city. I just really like that, and it's so cool and innovative, but accurate to the Penguin character. It's just, what an authentic Penguin cave. It's brilliant. It kind of also made me think, imagine if Oz walked in down there to just find like another setup that Bruce has in the city. But this whole scene was great. I love how this gave them like a second wind after everything derailing earlier. It's like there's this new fuel for fire now that is lit up in Oz and Vic. The generator gets working and the whole place lights up. But then again, I also like how the light just sparks out. It kind of perfectly symbolizes this bodge job approach that Oz always has, but yet somehow always manages to work out in the end. And that was the very end of the episode. And you guys know my thoughts. Like, after a very long rambly review, I freaking love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Like, everything is teed up so much to be explosive in these final 3 episodes, and I couldn't ask for more. I know I'm coming across so fanboy now, but I feel validated that I'm not alone in how much passion I have for this Penguin series. So, ladies and gentlemen, With that being said, let me know your own thoughts on this episode, your own theories down in that comment section below. I will be interacting with you guys, so do get involved. If you liked this video, do help me out, especially if you're watching right now. Hit the like button. Consider subscribing, of course, for more Penguin breakdowns, but also new updates on the Batverse as we get closer to the Batman Part 2. But I'm going to love you and leave you now. So again, really appreciate your support. I hope you guys have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you fellow Bat family in the next video. Goodbye.